So it's vitally important that managers develop the well-being and resilience of their workforce. So what should leaders do to make that happen?
It's a really good point. And I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all silver bullet solution, because in terms of resilience and well-being, what works for one employee as part of a workforce might not work for another. But what we do know coming out of the pandemic, reading all the research and understanding the data, is that there are some universals. There are some key things that leaders can do and organisations can implement that will impact positively on resilience. In the short term, from a practical point of view, leaders can be sure to communicate more and better and frequently. A lot of the research that McKinsey has published is around how, whilst organisations are talking about a hybrid model of working and talking about making this happen, they're not actually communicating how. And respondents to McKinsey's most recent survey on this said that this was actually a significant source of stress and anxiety for them. We know that very often people don't fear change, they fear uncertainty. And they fear the impact or not knowing what's going to happen to them. So all of this research is around kind of a lack of communication makes people feel uneasy, makes people feel anxious. So one thing immediately that leaders can do is communicate. Communicate what they do know, communicate that they might not know how something's going to pan out. And kind of what this research also showed is that when people are included in that way, they report a boost in well-being and morale. So straight away is communication, because that fosters feelings of inclusion. And now none of these things are a surprise in terms of good leadership, in terms of what people need to feel motivated and to feel safe. But it's just come to the fore even more since the onset of the pandemic. In terms of longer term behaviours, psychological safety, leaders fostering an environment of psychological safety has, quite rightly gained in significance since the onset of the pandemic. And when we think about psychological safety, what it is, it's an environment in which people feel safe to ask questions, to give their opinion, to challenge the status quo without fear of negative social consequence. And actually what needs to happen for people to feel secure is for them to have this feeling of psychological safety. So another thing that leaders can do in the longer term behaviourally is to figure out how they can instill this kind of environment, how they can make this happen. And again, research says that this is all about those skills that are emotional and social and relational. How do we help people to feel safe? And if we start at the very top of an organisation, that starts with those leaders at the very top role modelling and demonstrating the behaviours that they want to see throughout the rest of the organisation. So, the conversation or the topic of psychological safety fits absolutely with your question of what can leaders do to help in terms of adaptability and resilience.